Hello everyone, it's me, Nikki, and today I'm here with my November wrap-up. I'll start with the book that's on top that I finished last. This is the proof or ARC copy of The Frozen Crown by Greta Kelly. It is a duology. I believe they both came out the same year. But like a couple months apart, because I think you can buy the second one already and the first one, obviously. I really enjoyed this. This is an adult fantasy. I thought it was YA, but it is an adult fantasy. There is, the main character does have to kill a traitor, so they slit their throats, I think. What else? There's not sex, but there's some making out, I suppose. So if you're not comfortable with that, you could probably just skip it. I think those were all the trigger warnings I could think of. There might be more. I would check, what's it called? The story graph, because they do have, if you click on a book, they do have content warnings for that. But this is about Askia, I believe is how you pronounce that. And she is the heir to the Frozen Crown of Saravesh. And the Frozen Crown is, of course, in the north where it's very cold. And it's under attack from the Rovian Empire, who has been steadily encroaching further south. So she goes to Vishir, which is it's a desert, which is why the crown is melting. And her father, it was from the area, and her mother got disowned by her grandfather, the king. So they traveled around, because her father was what they call a witch. She was a healer, and she is also a witch, but she sees dead people, which is apparently very rare. I believe most witches are healers, or they don't like read your mind, but they can like sense your mind. And then there's another one that I can't remember, a fire one, maybe. So she goes there, but it's all politics, and she is not well versed in that at all. She makes a lot of missteps, but it sort of is endearing because she's a barbarian. The emperor is her godfather, I believe. His son is like one of her good childhood friends. And there is a group of people. They tell the story. There is a lady knight and the two-faced god, and there's a knight and a son. And I believe it's Lady Knight, a Day Lord. And, excuse me, in Vishir, the Day Lord obviously has preference. And there's a group of people whose name I've forgotten, but they're essentially zealots, and they don't like witches, because witches are women and worship Lady Knight. I believe that's how that works. And when Askia was young, they kidnapped her. They caught her and her mom and her dad. They killed her parents, and they tortured her, but that is all off-screen in the past. She has a scar on her neck and a brand of the Day Lord on her back because she didn't break. But the magic she has is ghosts, and if you can't see ghosts, you can't see ghosts. So they believe she is free, so she has to navigate that. She works with the queen, and they have their difficulties. She gets like a handmaiden, Noriko. No, that's not right. I want to say Noriko, but Neriko, who is just a cinnamon roll, essentially, and I love her and I want to protect her, and she only deserves the best. And I really did like Askia as well, because she's 21, I believe, so she's pretty young, but she is an accomplished fighter, and she does have trouble with all this because the politics of her court are completely different than the court down south. But I think she does pretty well and navigates, you know, around it, especially with the help she gets. There's certain characters at some point you just want to punch in the face. And then it ends on a fucking cliffhanger because there's a part 2. So now I desperately need that book because it just ends. So, yes, I would definitely pick this up if you can. I might actually go and get a real copy, not an ARC, because there's no map. And so because that's the only problem with ARCs, they don't usually have maps. So they're talking about places and you're like, I don't know where that is because there's no map. But in the real book, there is a map. So I definitely recommend that. I'll have to see if I can get both of them. Like I did She Who Became the Sun. I want to get a real copy of that as well. So yeah, I'm excited about that. Next I have The Rage of Dragons by Evan Winter. This is African-based fantasy. Like, here's the map. That's the map. It doesn't really look like Africa. Maybe like the west coast of Africa, if it was not as round. But it is all black characters, and there are dragons in it. Oh, and I really did like it. I think I mentioned this before. I had to stop reading because Tao, the main character, I will spoil this, his father dies, and that triggered me because my father died also in front of me, as with Tao. Not as violently. His father is stabbed because Tao humiliated a noble, and Tao was a lesser, and that's illegal. And so his dad took on the ritual fight for him and lost, and I think they were going to let him live, but then they killed him. So Tao is out for revenge because of that. And he manages to kill one of them? I think. Yeah. Maybe more. I can't remember. But in between that, he has joined a group of fighters to be part of the army because he believes if he works his way up, he will have enough privilege to kill the rest of the people. So it's all revenge motivated, like his whole thing, and it does get a little annoying at times, especially near the end. But he's only like 18 or 19, maybe 20. He's not super old. So I will give him a pass, but like at the end, political stuff is happening, and he needs to be like more focused on that, or like saving himself and his group mates, the boys he has been fighting alongside with. But he's really focused on like this one thing, and you're like, knock some sense into yourself. But then he has a trauma, and he's sort of, that makes his revenge almost worse. So I'm excited to read the second book. I think there's 3 or 4. I really enjoyed the characters. Like I said, Tao was a bit annoying at times, but you know what? Teenage boys are a bit annoying. I liked his group mates. There's a little dictionary at the back to explain all the words, because they're dragons. So like a scale is a military unit, and then like rage is another type of military unit, and dragons is a military unit, so that kind of thing, which I thought was cool. There is some demon ghosty type of stuff, which was super interesting. I'm excited to see where that goes. Yeah, I'm just sort of hyped to read the next one, because this one was really good. I thought because I got stuck at the beginning because of his dad, it sort of slowed me there. But if that doesn't trigger you, you could speed past that and you can just speed read the whole book. I mean, these little sections in a chapter are not very long, and it is super interesting and kind of fast paced. Even like the slow paced bits, I think, felt fast, if that makes any sense. But yeah, definitely check that out. And the last book I read was The Nobleman's Guide to Scandal and Shipwrecks. I pre-ordered this, I think in 2019 is when it was supposed to come out, and then COVID happened and it got pushed back to, because it was supposed to come out early 2020 and it got pushed back to late 2020, then early 2021, and then November 2021. So this takes place, I think Adrian is 19, so this is like 19 years after the first and second book. And he looks for answers about his mother, who unfortunately passed away, and that leads him to Monty and Felicity, siblings he didn't know he had. And so he goes on a little whirlwind adventure. So Monty is poly, I believe, but he has a boyfriend, Percy. And then Felicity, I believe, was asexual and wanted to be a doctor. Adrian has anxiety, really bad anxiety about everything, probably a little bit of OCD, and apparently their mother had that as well. And Adrian wants to know how that will affect him, because he finds a spyglass his mother believed was cursed, and he believes he's cursed, and the rest of the family, which is entirely possible, given this world. And if you do have anxiety or OCD, Adrian's sections where he spirals are super, like, triggering, I suppose, because he had some about, like, people are looking at him, or like, what if they read something he wrote and then they start judging him, and he just spiraled, and I'm like, that's me. But then he had a spiral about water, because they were on an island in the Azores, right down here, and Felicity told him not to drink that, which he had just done. So then he thought he was going to die, and he put leeches everywhere, and he basically passed out. And she goes, no, it just tastes weird, it's not going to kill you. So then, you know, they all have to figure each other out, and they have this little adventure. And essentially, it's a story about grief, because their father he's not a great person. And so his mother was like the only one he felt he could connect to, and he just doesn't understand why she died, and he's just trying to figure that out in some way. And it leads him on this journey, and I really enjoyed it. I thought the cast of characters was interesting. Of course, it's lovely to see Monty and Percy and Felicity again. There were some that I didn't remember from the first two books, but then I did, and I was like, oh yeah, I know them. Adrian has a fiance who is lovely. His fiance's brother is amazing as well. So yeah, I know Mackenzie Lee had some problems, but I really enjoyed the book, and I'm glad that it wrapped up in the way that it did. So yeah. Trying to think of anything else. There was the leeches, the spirals. Oh, Monty does get injured. It's nothing too graphic. Well, there's nothing super graphic. Like, probably the leeches is the worst bit. But I think that's everything. Yeah, those are the books that I read in November. I'm going to try to read 5 books every month because I have so many of them. So I didn't make it this month, but that's what December is for. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you're having a very lovely day. Goodbye!